taxpayers and voters will be making a decision on the upcoming override. So I'm not going to ask you about the decision, but as a leader in the community, how would you explain to a constituent how Plainville got to the point where this is necessary? And more importantly, operating forward, how would you tell them that you're going to operate in a way so that overrides won't be as necessary as quickly in the future?
Okay. Your first question was, how did we get here, basically? Well, the casino, which has been a wonderful thing for our town overall, you can't deny that, brought a lot of money into this town, and we're sitting in one of the benefits of what we got from that town. We decided as a town to use the money towards capital projects like this and stuff. I would say two things happened. When you get a lot of money into a town, you turn around and sometimes you spend beyond your means because you've got big buildings, you tend to want to fill them. You got budgets, you increase them because you feel like, unfortunately, it wasn't an operational situation, but you feel like you have money behind you. I think we spent frivolously in that particular situation. Second, as far as it's not happening again, you got to be conservative. You can't take your revenue projections and think you're going to have them. You've got to actually have them. You've got to not budget what everyone looks to have, but what we can afford. And then as far as what I can bring to being more fiscally responsible is I'm going to look at every single budget and I'm going to do what's best for Plainville from a taxpayer standpoint and also from a service level. But we have to stay within our means. We have to be able to spend within our means so we don't repeat the problem again.
Thank you. Mr. Widak, same question.
Does Bill want to repeat it? Or
Go ahead, Bill.
Sure. Mr. Widak, the decision on the override, yes or no, will be made by the voters. But as a leader in the community, how would you explain to a constituent who asked, how did we get to this point where an override is necessary? And more importantly, how would you answer them if they ask you the question of what are you going to do to minimize the possibility that we'll have to have another one in the not-so-distant future?
Okay. I think that everybody realizes in the town of Plainville that we are sitting in a beautiful building here, and we have a new public safety building. Those were done when Joe Fernandez was here years ago because he was very conservative and fiscal responsible. And what happened was he had the use of the stabilization fund and he had a earmark for this building. We have got to go back to earmarking just certain things for capital improvements. And what happened was we did a lot of capital improvements because we came out of the 1800th century and we went into the 2000th century. And what happened was we had water expenditures, we had road expenditures, and what happened was we almost went a little too fast. And the only reason we are in this predicament that we're in now is because we spent a little too much years ago. We should have kept our free cash. We didn't squirrel enough money away. And myself, I've been here 1 year on the board. I know that we're going to have to squirrel money away to make sure that we don't have any more overrides and be much more fiscal responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be asked by Luke Travis. The first to answer the question will be Mr. Widak.
Good evening, Mr. Widak. Thank you for being here. I'm going to stay on the same theme, essentially, as Mr. Gouvet, because I think this is the elephant in the room, if you will. And I'm going to cut a little bit closer to the bone, unfortunately. I'm going to ask you, are you in favor, or what is your position on the vote for this 2.5 override? And you can simply answer with one answer, or you can elaborate. That's entirely up to you. I'll leave it to you.
Okay. Being a board member of the Selectmen, I was one of 3 that chose to put it on the ballot. Putting it on the ballot, I feel that I have to let the townspeople, the taxpayers, make that decision. I afford it, I can possibly afford it, but the next guy next to me might not afford it. So at this time, Luke, it is on the ballot, and I have asked people in the town, they have to vote their conscience, they have to vote what they feel is proper for them. You also have to remember, we're in a pandemic. We have a 22% unemployment rate in Plainville right now. And we have furloughed people, we have people that are having trouble. People gotta realize, if it passes, which the town needs it to pass to keep all the services going, the taxes will be a little higher, and I'm hoping that the people are gonna be able to afford the taxes. And we don't have a bunch of tax bills, and then people can't afford it because they can't pay their taxes. So at this point, I put it on the ballot, and I am just letting the people decide. It is gonna be the general public that's gonna say, we want it or we don't want it.
Mr. Desprez, same question.
Hi, I actually, also, there's only one choice here, and it's an all or nothing. And I find that particular decision by the Board of Selectmen not acceptable. It unfortunately puts us into a position where either alternative is too far in one direction. I don't agree with it. I understand both sides, and it is very painful to even come up with one side or the other. My goal is to bring everyone together and face these hardships together. I recommend a modified or compromised budget, a more affordable override amount that will scale back services without creating wastelands of the 17.47% drop in budgets in our services. The problem with the current thing is that it's a short-term fix with very real long forever tax implications. The proposed override budget does not give a response to address what we can actually afford today. That is a big problem. What we can afford today is different than what they're proposing, and it's just too much on the taxpayers. I want to share the taxpayers' burden along with the services cuts, and we're going to have to make more to make this work. It's going to have to be a compromised budget. I'll get more into that if able down the road, but we're pretty much running out of time at this point.